April 26th was a busy day for the nations of the six-party talks. First, Jimmy Carter visited Pyongyang, while Woo Da-wei came to Seoul, with the U.S.-South Korea strategic dialogue and 2+2 vice ministerial meeting being held on the side. Will this sudden rush of developments lead to a breakthrough in the inter-Korean relationship? Welcome to In Focus. Today we will discuss the recent developments on the Korean Peninsula.
Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter was in Pyongyang once more from the 26th to the 28th, together with the members of the Elders Group. Former President Carter had played a pivotal role in the first nuclear crisis of 1994. Back then, his visit to Pyongyang had led to a nuclear deal and inter-Korean dialogue. The world is watching to see if he could do the same this time around. Meanwhile, Woo Da-wei, China's special representative to Korean Peninsula Affairs, also visited Seoul on the 26th. Woo had earlier met with North Korean Vice Foreign Minister Kye-gwan to reach an agreement on a three-step process towards denuclearization talks. The key question is, what message did it deliver from North Korea? With envoys from the U.S. and China visiting the two Koreas respectively, perhaps the Korean Peninsula is at a pivotal moment. If the two are successful in mediating between the two Koreas, inter-Korean confrontation may finally give way to dialogue. The U.S. in the north and China in the south. Could these two giants bring the Koreas to dialogue once more? Find out in today's discussion.
Welcome back. To discuss the implications of Jimmy Carter's visit to North Korea and diplomatic efforts to resume dialogues on the Korean Peninsula, we invited two experts to our program today. To my right is Professor Philip Park from Gyeongnam University. Welcome to the program, Professor Park.
I'm glad to be here.
And to my left is Professor Han Dong-ho from the Institute of Foreign Affairs and National Security. Thank you for joining us today, Professor Han.
I'm glad to be here.
Well, Professor Han, the former U.S. President Jimmy Carter visited North Korea on the 26th with the group of former presidents known as the Elders, and his visit was taking place in the middle of China's shuttle diplomacy to find some common grounds to resume the six-party talks. So what was the significance of his trip? Has he produced any substantial outcomes?
I think, definitely he has a personal message from Kim Jong-il. First of all, I think it is a good achievement. But at the same time, he has a clear limit because he has a personal purpose to visit North Korea in this time. He is not a messenger from the United States government or any governmental affiliations. So.
After his visit to North Korea, he came to South Korea. He met with the South Korean nuclear envoy, Ri Sung-nak, and then met with the South Korea's Minister of Unification, Hyun In-taek. And then he held a press conference and he said Kim Jong-il is willing to meet with the South Korean President Lee Myung-bak under any conditions. What can we make of this remark? I mean, is Kim Jong-il proposing inter-Korean summit meeting?
I think, we can interpret this like this, but we should be careful to interpret this event because the North has kind of reason to make a cooperative effort in inter-Korean dialogue nowadays. So I think this kind of North desperation promotes this kind of movement. But at the same time, I think the South Korean government can seize the opportunity.
Professor Park, it seems that the U.S. government, as well as South Korean governments, are sort of downplaying the significance of Jimmy Carter's visit to North Korea because his visit was a personal one with no ties to the U.S. government. Was this trip basically his own idea, or was he carrying any message from the Obama administration? What do you think?
Well, definitely, as Carter and the Elders Group made a statement before they go to North Korea, their visits, I think, perfectly personal. But I think we have to see this in the context. We know that there was a summit meeting between China and the United States last January, and they had some personal session for 1 hour or so, and we do not really know what's been discussed, but it has been rumored, speculated that they were talking about the mainly on the Korean Peninsula issue. And I think if you look at from that perspective, then there is some kind of coordinated effort between United States and China. China sent Wood Away, but before Wood Away came to Korea, Hillary Clinton visited South Korea, and obviously, clearly, she sent a message to President Myeongbak that so-called three process, the North-South meeting, and then North Korea and the United States, and then resuming six-party talk. And Wood Away carried the same thing. So in that respect, I think clearly there's a coordination between United States and China. But Carter's visit with the other members of elders will be an added effect, if I said.
I see. Professor Han, some people say that the current situation is remarkably similar to 1993 when there was a stalemate over North Korean nuclear issues.
Right.
At that time, Jimmy Carter's visit to North Korea proved to be a breakthrough that led to what is known as the 1994 Agreed Framework. Do you think this experience can be replicated once again?
I think to predict the future is always a difficult task. So we cannot confidently predict the future. But I think this kind of historical analogy makes many people predict this outcome positively. So definitely, I think in the 1994, Jimmy Carter contributed to the easing tensions on the Korean Peninsula at that time. But I think it doesn't necessarily mean his visit to North Korea for this time makes similar or same effect.
I see. What do you think, Professor Park? Do you think Jimmy Carter's visit to North Korea can lead to another breakthrough to the stalemate on the Korean Peninsula?
Well, there's a cycle in the history, so if you look at that way, that might be replicated today, but I think the situation is a little different. 1994, it was a stalemate. Made not only stalemate, but there was a confrontation, and the United States has some plan to make a preemptive strike on certain site, such as Yongbyon. But this time is different. There was a coordinated effort, as I said before, between the United States and China, try to persuade both North Korea and South Korea. And the Carter's visit is kind of an added effect. So. That can be replicated, meaning that South Korea and North Korea summit can be replicated. But Carter's role is this time is limited.
I see. Let's turn to the official diplomatic efforts to revive the six-party talks. On the very same day when Jimmy Carter was visiting Pyongyang, China's nuclear envoy Woo Da-wei came to South Korea, met with the South Korean counterpart Ri Sung-nak, and then met with the South Korean Minister of Foreign Affairs Kim Sung-hwan. So what were the results? What were the outcomes of these meetings?
The results was that China and South Korea both agree that there is a problem that it must be resolved. But Woo Da-wei was tried. I mean, they have a very clear mission. Mission is to persuade South Korea to get into that participation in the three-stage process, which is North-South Korea meeting first, and then North Korea and United States meeting, and that will turn into six-party talk. So Woo Da-wei has a clear mission, but now in South Korea, although Woo Da-wei met with the Minister of Unification and other important persons in Korea, but he didn't met with a person from Blue House. So there is some kind of definite policy is not made from the Blue House yet. We can probably assume that.
Professor, did they work out the differences with regard to the preconditions of inter-Korean dialogue? Because South Korea has been adamant about North Korea's apologies for the provocations, while China's position has been, well, let bygones be bygones. So did they, sort out these differences during this meeting?
I think they from the bottom line is that they agree that the three-stage process is necessary.
In principle.
Right, in principle.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the China's position and the South Korea position probably in a kind of confusion because South Korea has very adamant about getting apology from North Korea for Cheonan incidents and the Yeonpyeong Island incidents. North Korea made a, well, not an official apology, but they expressed the sorry to the Yeonpyeong Island incident, but they would not, make an apology to the Cheonan incidents. So, since South Korea's position was all along very adamant, and that has not been changed, although they agree in the principle, working out that differences would be
so still there are some differences that we need to work out.
Right.
Okay, I see. Professor Han, another important event that took place on the 26th was this 2+2 vice ministerial meeting between the United States and South Korea. So what were the major agendas of these meetings, and do you think the outcomes of these meetings have any bearings on the current situations on the Korean Peninsula?
I think the major outcome of this meeting is kind of strengthening U.S.-ROK alliance. So I think this meeting is primarily about the United States and Korea relationship rather than inter-Korean relationship itself. Also, this meeting was already determined to be held in last year based on the consensus between the Korean president and the United States president. So I think recent developments we are talking about are separated from this meeting, in my opinion.
So these meetings don't have anything to do with the recent visit of Jimmy Carter to North Korea?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right. Professor Park, if we can get back to Jimmy Carter's visit to North Korea, while he was visiting North Korea, he met with all these important persons in North Korea, although he didn't meet Chairman Kim Jong-il. So when he was meeting with these important persons in North Korea, do you think he advised them to apologize for their provocations?
Because the full text is not available, or the reporting is not available, so I cannot say for definitely. But when you look at the members of elders, Marty, Asardi, Gro, Berland, and Mary Robinson, they're all very important persons. I mean, they were the head of the state. Also, they are very important persons in the UN formally. So, especially Mary Robinson, for example, she was High Commissioner on Human Rights in UN. Also, Berland was the head of World Health Organization. So they have different agendas, basically. For example, Mary probably has the issue on the human rights. Berland probably has issue in the healthcare and other related field. Asardi is a 2008 Nobel laureate. He was an expert on negotiation. So they have different agendas. So when you look at it, they probably demand certain things. But for example, Cheonan incidents is still it's debated. I mean, in Korea it was a done deal, but internationally it is still in debate. So I don't think they would, ask them to make apology. But for the Yeonpyeong Island incident, they probably, made a certain statement. Yes.
So it seems to me that unless North Koreans make some concessions with regard to the apologies, many in South Korea are saying that inter-Korean dialogue is not going to take place. Right. What do you think?
I think the current Lee government has a solid, strict principle in terms of reciprocity and need for apology from the North side. But I think sometimes the government has flexibility and kind of adaptability because the security situation on the Korean Peninsula is rapidly changing nowadays. So I think the necessary thing for the South Korean government is this kind of adaptation to a changing environment, security environment.
But the South Korean government is not really appreciating the role of Jimmy Carter here because, as you mentioned, as Professor Han mentioned, Jimmy Carter is not really speaking for the U.S. government. He sounded as if he was speaking for the North Korean government. So is Jimmy Carter playing into the hands of North Koreans? What do you think?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't. That's definitely not the case. Because if see, they could not meet Kim Jong-il. He probably have some kind of other agenda. But the thing is, Kim Jong-il cannot, meet with this Jimmy Carter and the other members of elders. As I said, Mary Robinson probably will talk about the human rights in North Korea. And Gro Brundtland probably talking about the food shortage problems and that relate to health problems, which Kim Jong-un would not want to acknowledge. So in that case, Jimmy Carter was saying that, in the humanitarian, based on humanism or humanitarianism, Jimmy Carter is saying that they're giving food to North Korea is a humanitarian issue. So I think that's a personal statement rather than North Korea's. See, North Korea do not, as a matter of fact, acknowledging that they have a food crisis. So in that respect, I think it's the Carter statement is from his personal view.
As Professor Park mentioned, Jimmy Carter made this statement. North Koreans are willing to give up nuclear weapons, but they will never give up nuclear weapons unless the United States gives them full security guarantees. And a lot of North Koreans are suffering, so the South Koreans should resume humanitarian aid to North Korea. Sure, we might have to resume humanitarian aid to North Korea, but the way he said all these sounded as if he was speaking for the North Korean government. So do you think Jimmy Carter is being fair to both North and South Koreans?
Well, in terms of fairness, it is very hard to say whether he's fair or not. But if we think Jimmy Carter is, in this case, Jimmy Carter is from the elders group, is kind of international group, kind of non-governmental group of former global leaders. So I think he has enough reason to focus on human rights or humanitarian concerns thus far. So I think, but I think the interpretation from domestic politics in South Korea is really important. If we interpret Carter's remarks on North Korea as kind of being sided with North Korea, it will be problematic.
You don't think Jimmy Carter is being sympathetic with the North Korean regime?
I think in some sense he has some kind of sympathy toward North Korean regime, but we don't have to interpret this as kind of political opinion of his side.
Well, let me add this. I think Professor Han made a good point. However, if I add a little more, the elders group made a statement. For the purpose of visiting North Korea. First was that there was a food shortage problem, and they said that even 6 million people are suffering from the food shortage. Second is that there's a tension between North and South Korea, and that there's no dialogue. So as the elders of the world, they want to, address these two accounts. So I think, you see, Jimmy Carter might have some sympathy towards North Korean people, and so as the members of other elders group. But I don't think it's very difficult for me to imagine that Jimmy Carter and the other members of elders would have a sympathy towards North Korean regime,
toward the people of North Korea.
Toward the people, yes, of course, as their statement clearly indicates.
I see. Anyways, it seems that the momentum is certainly building toward the resumption of the six-party talk. But there are many more hurdles that we need to cross. So what is the diplomatic timetable here? What are the major diplomatic events that are scheduled to take place to hold the inter-Korean dialogue and to hold the six-party talk ultimately?
You see, the problem right now, the biggest obstacle, ironically, is South Korea. I'm not saying South Korea is doing something wrong, but South is because the South Korea the principle of demanding that North Korea make an apology first, and then or North Korea shows some kind of sincerity towards the talk, unless that's been promised by North Korea or acted by North Korea. South Korea will not resume the talk. So that's the problem. See, all the 5 countries, 5 participants in six-party talk, you see, China and the United States already agreed, and they sent the envoys, as I mentioned earlier. Japan and Russia, because Japan has the problem with the nuclear, the Fukushima Fukushima nuclear accident. Because of that, they have to address that issue in the six-party talk. Russia is Russia demanding six-party talk, as long as I remember. So, but it's South Korea that is holding that process right now. I respect the South Korea government's principle. However, I think it's quite important that South Korea, must participate in this process, and in the six-party talk. And while along with that process, we can check and we can really affirm about the sincerity of North Korea.
So, in so much as the North Korea is under the pressure to make concessions, South Korea is also under the pressure to be more flexible.
Yes.
What would be your policy recommendations to South Korean government at this critical juncture?
Well, as far as I know, there is no official proposal from the South Korean government about resuming inter-Korean talks or improving inter-Korean relations so far. But I think if the South Korean government can seize this momentum on the Korean Peninsula, I think we can develop our own strategy to resume inter-Korean relations as first step to 3 stages approach.
I see. What is the position of the United States government with regard to all this? As you said, the South Korean government has been adamant about the apologies for the provocations, but the U.S. position is slightly different, I guess. So are we on the same page with regard to the preconditions of the inter-Korean dialogue? Are we on the same boat?
United States, I think they're pursuing 2-track strategy. First, as respecting the alliance, the ROK and USA alliance, that comes first, as Hillary Clinton mentioned while visiting South Korea. But on the other hand, as they made some kind of negotiation, China and the United States are about to opening or resuming the six-party talk. So that's more like a global issue. So I think Hillary Clinton made a very clear statement that the South Korea is better, or is in South Korea's interest.
The South Korean government is advised to be more flexible by the United States government.
Yes, and also she made a clear statement that that resuming six-party talk is in the interest of South Korea and the United States.
I see. Professor Han, any final thoughts that you'd like to share with us today?
Yeah, I think the South Korean government has kind of leverage to make changes in current peninsula affairs nowadays. So I think the South Korean government should be more alert to these kind of changes.
I see. Well, this is all for today's discussion. Thank you very much for your insightful discussion today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.